Hey guys, I'm Steven here with our favorite person, one of our favorite people, Luke Crane, here at GenCon. How's it going, Luke? It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's going great. If I am your favorite person, we need to talk more. I need to ask you some questions.
I think that's fair. Well, let me ask you some questions. Torchbearer, right? So we're into Torchbearer, as you hopefully know by now. And we got into this quite a while ago when it first launched. We were in the Kickstarter of it. I know that Jonathan and I both were. And we were just amped. And this game does something really phenomenal and fantastic. It's kind of this D&D homage, this kind of old school thing, but it also does a lot of this new stuff, this new indie stuff. So tell us about the process of Torchbearer for you and kind of what you're trying to accomplish with this system.
All right, so Torchbearer was this really long process. Torch started working on it right after we finished Mouse Guard in 2008. He was like, hey, I bet we could do this fantasy version of this, and like, he felt like even the turn structure of Mouse Guard would help do a fantasy game, because it's like, yeah, you go on the adventure and then you camp, or you lock yourself in the room in the dungeon and rest, and he felt like that would be like GM's turn, player's turn. It didn't really work like that, but he worked on it kind of on his own, off and on, for about 2 years, and then I kind of noticed what he was doing, and we were doing all this other stuff. Like, we weren't just doing nothing then. That was like free market time and stuff like that. So, I peeked in and I was like, hey, you want me to take a look at this? And so he gave me the documents, and I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Do you want help? Do you want to do this? Because Torchbearer never really been the lead on a project with us before.
Yeah.
He's always been the taskmaster whipping me. So then I was like, yeah, do you want to...
Would you like me to whip you?
Yeah, and then I was like, just kind of gently took the whip from him, and I was like, because I'm ready.
You've had this coming.
Yeah. And I mean everything that I'm implying. So...
That's fine. I think we'll take that.
Anyway,
so you're the taskmaster.
So yeah, all of the creative decisions for the game came down to Tor. But I was like, we got to make a decision. What is it going to be? We're going to go this direction. And so that was cool. It was a new relationship for us. So the whole process took about 4 years. It took about 2 years of like Tor developing, and then 2 more years of writing and testing to get it done. And we love the old school D&D process. We even played it as part of the playtesting process. And because the original idea was just like, hey, these Mouse Guard rules, they'll totally work for this. But of course, we're perfectionists, and we're like, nope, doesn't exactly work right. Yeah. So we cut it, and polished it to get it going, to get it to actually do what we thought it should do. And it kind of changed the game too. It made it meaner.
Yeah.
It made the game a lot meaner, which was cool. Like, and when we were done with it, we're like, wow, we made this like really tight, hardcore, like mean game, and we're okay with it. Like, and like, if that means that 1 million people don't play it because they're like, this is too hard, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we took all the things that people dump out of their D&D games, like light and encumbrance and like your 10-foot poles and all that stuff, and we put it into our game, and we feel like we made it fun. Like, we made those rules very modern, like really, really easy to engage with. Like, the inventory system, it's just not hard. It's just slot based. You have a few slots, put your stuff in there, but it leads you to dramatic decisions. Like, it leads you to these like really tense moments, or moments of abject frustration when you're like, fucking, why don't we fucking play this game? But I feel like if I get a player to that point, I've done my job as a game designer.
Is that, as a game designer, this is a question I've been wondering for a while. So what is the most valued thing for you that you want to give to a player, that you want to create? Is it that, because I've seen it in Torchbearer, I've seen it in Burning Wheel as well, is it that drama between a player like coming to terms with their character and either changing or like just dealing with that and working it out? Is it that kind of experience, or is it that throw up my hands, I'm frustrated but I'm going to keep going kind of? So is there anything that you can say on that?
Any game designer who has like basic chops can yank a player's emotional chains, right?
Yeah.
And get that reaction out of them. That's not a sign of great skill. But for me, like, obviously getting them engaged, getting players involved, there's another level to this for me that I've found in designing these games that there's this engagement, but then if you keep iterating it and you keep like, pounding on that engagement and keep like investing, there's a moment at which it's almost like the player is, in an orbital elevator or whatever. There's a moment when they, they're accelerating toward this moment, toward this big decision, and then boom, they just hit this kind of like outer atmosphere where the rules drop away, the kind of room drops away, and the player realizes that the game has got them there, but now they have to make a decision, a real decision, a hard decision.
Yeah.
And that you just kind of like float in free fall for a moment where you go, all right, fuck it, we're gonna do it, and then you shoom, like right back down, like into the rules and the madness and the and the consequences of that decision.
Yeah.
And that's what I designed for, is to get players to that moment, right? When basically the rules are this launch pad to these super intense decisions and moments.
So, Torchbearer, as you said, we interviewed you a while back on podcast, which was that you wanted a system you could sink your teeth into, that really had a rule set that was not just pick up and go. You discovered things as you read the book again, and that kind of gave that old school D&D experience where you'd have that friend who always came to the table and was like, well, did you know that on page 62 that the halfling gets +1 against like orcs? And it's like, no, I didn't know that. So how is it that you structure a rule set? You said you wanted to elevate players to a certain point of freedom, right? So how do you take this, what seems to be an unfreeing rule set, and then use it to propel a player to freedom? What are the processes there?
All right, so I thought about this a lot, too much maybe. There has to be a price in order to be emotionally invested. If there's no price, you're not going to invest anything in it. Just how we operate as human beings. You might appreciate something, but to really get your emotions tied into something, you've got to invest in it. And a way to invest in a role-playing game is to learn the rules, be involved in the situations, and then, you do this over time. And if it's rewarding, right? If it's like, if you're pushing a little bit and you're getting a little back, like, you play that belief for the first time and you get a reward and you're like, and you spend that fate point on an important role, like involved in your next belief, you're like, oh, and then you play that other belief harder, you kind of like build into that cycle, and it kind of creates this rhythm, and like the investment comes over time, like gradually over time. And so our game asks a lot. I mean, look at these ridiculous tables, right? Our game is not a simple game, and we're okay with that, because we know that if you take that step up, that kind of like steep initial learning curve, which is a short but steep one, if you take that step up, it's really going to reward you. That little bit of system mastery is going to deepen your play, and we designed for that. We know that we ask a lot, and maybe we're just bad designers. Maybe it's we can't figure out how to ramp players in. But I hate being handheld into a game. Like all the modern like aesthetic of like the tutorial and to like, and now do this, now click here and do this. I'm like, F you, like get out of my face. I'll just click around or whatever. Like I don't want that in my games either. Like I want my games to be honest with you and say, this is what's required of you to play the game. And if you're into that, then we're going to have a great time. And if you're not into it, totally cool. There's many other games that you can play.
Yeah, fantastic.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, so let's dive into some more of the concrete elements, the actual physical products that you have here. You got the Torchbearer book, which I actually kickstarted, and it's fantastic. You got the player decks and the GM screen.
Right.
So if I'm a player of Torchbearer, which I am, but let's say I'm out there in the internet and I've got the book and I've played a few times and I'm digging it. Where do I go now? Why do I need or want these things is the question.
Right. I mean, if you've played our games before, you know that we design really holistic books where we give you everything you need to play the game in the book. We're really not interested in milking you over multiple books or anything like that. If we're going to do another book, we're going to provide a lot of content, a lot of fresh content that will expand the game, but not be required to play the game. So we're really confident that the Torchbearer rules are, a couple years of good play hidden in here.
Yeah.
But we also know that the game has some, basically the game has some handling time issues where the character sheet can get overwhelmed. There can be too much going on in the character sheet. So we wanted to kind of remove some of the burden on the character sheet and really just make it easy.
See, it's working.
It's working. we wanted to make it easy for the player to kind of get into the game, have a visual reference, and be able to say like, okay, that's my sword, that's this. And this came out of the mouse guard game, like doing those mouse guard cards and watching how people use them. We refined that process. In fact, David Peterson, he saw the Torchbearer deck when I got the proof from the printer, and he was like, how do we do these for mouse guard? I want exactly these for mouse guard, because he realized that we had refined the mouse guard ones, and he wanted the better version. Yeah. So which we're going to do, So we really just wanted to make a nice visual reference to the players, and also so the players don't have to buy the rulebook if they don't want to. There's that whole like cult of like the game master buys the rulebook, and the players just kind of live off of his largesse. So in this case, we give the players an easy way to invest. It's only $12 for the player's deck, and then the game master screen. There's hidden information in Torchbearer, which has been really fun to play with. Hidden information is part of what makes exploration in a game possible. Yeah. And it's not the only thing, but it's one way to do it. And I mean, hidden information games are they're classic. And so even though RPG hidden information is like basically a game of telephone about stereo instructions, so we wanted to provide you a nice place to hide your information, and then do what we could to provide you with some useful tables. But the secret sauce here is the grind. This is the most important part of the screen. Is like, all right, you're it does once. So. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm in the groove. So we designed the screen. As you can see, it'll actually perfectly hide a piece of paper. So you can actually, if you want to, you can GM with your map hidden here, and rolling out in the open, and your other notes or whatever here, or your cards. If you're playing a conflict, your cards are out here. But the grind, we use post-it flags, and so as you're moving along, as the turns pass, your light is burning out. Like we'll usually have one for the turn tracker, and then one for the lights. We'll mark where the lights burn out up here. Yeah. And so on the other side of the screen, what you get, the players are looking at this fabulous art, but they're watching the flags march, and they're not quite certain what turn they're on, unless they're tracking. Nice. But they know they're like, we're like, I think that looks like maybe we're on turn 3, like we should rest, and really we're on turn 5 or something, so it works. That's the most important thing, really, is this turn tracker that it really helps GM. The turn tracking without this is onerous. Because you have so many other resources, like tracking it in front of you on the table. You need the map, you need the cards. Having it up high just clears it right up.
You ever use a paperclip?
We haven't used the paper clips yet because we made the screen super, super thick. So we haven't tried that yet. We don't want to damage them. But initially the plan was to make things that would hang over here, like a torch and a sword. Yeah, totally. I might still do it, but it was the production for this was actually so hard that I finally just said, forget it. Let's just do the screen and get it out, and we'll worry about everything else later.
Well, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks beautiful. And show off the art.
Sure. So this is.
Tell us about this piece, because I know you're really proud of it, and for good reason.
Yeah. So this is by Russ Nicholson, who is the artist who, if I'm not mistaken, developed the Githyanki and the Githzerai and the Grell and many other really iconic monsters from Fiend Folio back in 1977.
Wow.
So he's still working. We got in touch with him. He did some pieces for Torchbearer, the book, and we asked him if he'd be willing to do a color piece for the screen. And Tor worked with him and gave him this really kind of bare bones sketch of kind of what he wanted for this. And Russ turned it into this amazing milieu. It's an entire world. It's like a Where's Waldo of dead adventurers.
It's crazy.
So this incredible world, starting at the castle, and then the subterranean, or the above Earth stuff, the subterranean stuff, and there's all these different tribes and monsters. We're really hoping that somebody actually takes this and makes an adventure out of it.
Oh man, challenge accepted.
Yeah, it would be. It's instant death. But if this turns out to be our our Tomb of Horrors, I'd be really happy with that.
That's awesome, man. Well, so you got the book out, you got the peripherals. I want to just mention real quick, Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
So you guys ran this through Kickstarter. This is one of the best run Kickstarters that I've seen in a while.
Thanks.
I've done some Kickstarters that have been very, very to the point, got stuff out, kept the updates rolling, got the book produced. It was all very perfect, very fluid. So do you have any advice to give to people? I know that you're involved in Kickstarter as well, like aspiring game designers out there who might want to do a similar thing as you.
Two things. So one, before you come to Kickstarter, get out there in the world with your game. Kickstarter is not the way to get your game out in the world unless you're very, very lucky. And I know we all think we're very, very lucky, but relatively small amount of money that we made, $65,000. I mean, yes, it's a lot of money, but it's not that much money. That's like 12 years of us working with our fans, talking to them, releasing games, getting their feedback, operating a forum, engaging with them in social media. Like, that is not just, that money just didn't come out of nowhere. And that includes, building up a relationship with press people long before the Kickstarter went live. So get out there with your game, get into the world, play it, demo it, come to GenCon, take prototypes of your game in your backpack and hand them out. When I first published my first game, my motto was one person. If I can get one person to go home with my game, it'll be worth it. And I spent weekends sitting in gaming halls, just but always, I never failed to get at least one person to take the game home. And those people were crucial because they become super fans. They have a really important, meaningful interaction with you. Then they go home and tell their friends. They really want that game, and it totally pays off. So, I mean, you've got to think about your game in those terms before you think about funding. And I know, but I need funding to get there. There's other ways. There's other ways to get there first. And then once you're on Kickstarter, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Don't reach for the sun there because you're just going to get burned, Icarus. But no, seriously, especially in your first time out, keeping it simple, you're gonna learn so much. With a successful Kickstarter that's perfectly run, you're going to learn so much. You do not need to learn the lessons of what happens when you fuck up on your first time out. Much better to learn those after you have some experience under your belt.
Nice, man. So what's the future for you? What can we expect from Luke Crane in the next couple of years? Anything that's really you got your eye on? Anything that you're inspired to do? Yeah.
I'll actually, instead of being really cagey, I'll tell you guys some of the stuff that we're working on. Last year I published a comic book. Iron Empire's Void, basically Chris's first comic book in many, many years. So we did that through Kickstarter, and we've kind of been holding on to it since then, because now, in the next few months, we're going to reprint his original graphic novels in the same format, hardcover, nice paper, with the same kind of trade dress, so everybody can have a set of them. And because we love these things, and we want the world to have nice editions of them. So we're going to do those. Probably even within the next month, we're going to launch that. And so I will now then really be officially a comics publisher.
Nice.
Great. I just did a Kickstarter for the Mouse Guard Swords and Stronghold board game. So I'll be tidying up the rules for that and then getting that into production the next few months.
Very cool.
And then the last thing that I'm most excited about, and I'm kind of okay, let's get these other obligations out of the way. I am going to publish a LARP that I've written.
Whoa.
That I've been working on this since, I think we estimated either 2006 or 2007.
Whoa.
Yeah, in one form or another.
Can you tell us anything about it? I mean,
I'll give you the elevator pitch. It's called Inheritance, and it is a Viking funeral LARP.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, basically the patriarch of this one family has died, and these two families come together to get their inheritance.
All right, man. Thanks so much, Luke. It's a pleasure. That sounds amazing, and we love being with you, man. So keep up the great work, and we'll keep playing Torchbearer.
Thanks so much. I love you guys.